From Ringsend to Tallaght, the Shamrock Rovers Players' Stories is a new book that tells the history of the most famous and successful club in the 100-year history of the League of Ireland. Shamrock Rovers as a club has had great periods of dominance, winning 5 FA Cups in the 1930s, 6 in the 60s and 4 league titles in the 1980s. But it's also experienced desperate lows, including the controversial sale of Glenmalure Park in Milltown and examinership and relegation in 2005. Thankfully, now firmly embedded in Tallaght Stadium, trophy success has returned. So this book tells the story of those highs and lows, but in the players' own words. Written by Macdara, Ferris and Eoghan Rice, the book is based on 50 interviews carried out over the last 20 years, but includes 20 interviews carried out specifically for this book. But throughout, player interviews from the 1930s through to the 50s, 60s, 80s to the current team, including Hoops head coach Stephen Bradley. Each chapter sees a player tell their story, the big games, the key characters, the memorable days that defined both their careers and the history of Ireland's most famous football club. From the 1930s, we've interviews with Jerry Mackey, Ronnie Nolan and Larry Palmer, detailing how Rovers established itself as Ireland's dominant football force in the early decades of the League of Ireland. Frank O'Neill, Liam Toohey, Damien Richardson and Mick Leach are among the players who relived some of the glory days from the 1960s, those 6 successive FA Cup wins and famous European nights against clubs like Bayern Munich. John Giles exclusively gives his account of trying to rebuild Rovers in the late 1970s and why his experiment ultimately failed to deliver. A host of names from the famous 1980s 4-in-a-row side speak to us, amongst them Pat Byrne, Mick Byrne and Peter Eccles, and they talk about what made that famous team tick and how it felt to be part of the last team to play in Glenmalure Park. The sale of Milltown left the club homeless for over 2 decades, and players such as Terry Palmer, Jason Caldwell and Tony Cousins talk about the struggles of those wandering years, while Derek Tracy and Trevor Malloy speak about the heartache of relegation. The rebirth of the club post-examinership and promotion back to the Premier Division are told in detail, Pat Scully revealing how he built that team that got Rovers back into the top flight. And then we chatted with big names such as Stephen Rice, Aaron McAniff and Jack Byrne, who tell the inside story of their title winning teams. And we go right up to the present day squad, where we speak with club captain Ronan Finn and head coach Stephen Bradley. And they both talk about the drive that keeps the squad hungry for more success. All proceeds from the book are going to go to the Shamrock Rovers Academy, and myself and Eoghan hope that the book might help inspire the next generation to pull on the green and white hoops.